There are more people in Tokyo than in lots of countries. Yet somehow it can feel calm. I kept thinking about that fact as soon as I arrived there. I traveled to places like Hong Kong, London, and New York. Everyone is busy. Tokyo was also busy, but it moved carefully. No one pushed, but people moved quickly. Trains were quiet but crowded. Crowds were polite as well. For years, Japan had been on my list. I had previously traveled across time zones, countries, and oceans. I had traveled through both quiet towns and bustling cities. As I landed, Japan felt different. It had a strange feel. Both new and old at the same time. In the same breath, calm and active. The total length of this trip was 15 days. Enough time to feel the pulse. Long enough to consciously get lost. It was great to travel alone because Japan is kind to solo travelers. You are never rushed. Nobody ever looks at you. You are free to go at whatever pace you want. With 5 days planned for Kyoto, I spent much of my time in Tokyo. I was mostly on foot. I took taxis when my legs were worn out. I went on organized trips when I required a deeper meaning. I took the bullet train and traveled across the country in a little more than 2 hours when I wanted speed. Tokyo appeared like the future. Kyoto felt like a memory. They told the entire story together. The subject of this episode is calm time in a noisy setting. About food from little shops. About trains that run like clocks. And what it's like to visit Japan for the first time, even if you feel you've seen the world. After a long flight, I arrived in an enormous city that ran like a living system. Trains were regular and on time. The signs were unmistakable. People made purposeful movements. It was very much its own place, yet it seemed more like a portion of Europe than anything else in Asia. In Asakusa, I stayed at a small hotel. A simple room, neat and quiet. It cost about $110 a night. I essentially explored on foot after that. It was easy to walk on the level streets. Nearly every corner had a vending machine, either ice cream, tea, coffee, or soup. It was like certain parts of Seoul, but quieter. I got a taxi to Tokyo Skytree in the afternoon. The fare was about $12, and it cost $28 for admission to the upper deck. Tokyo extended out in all directions from above. No definite ending. It was denser than flying over Los Angeles and more organized. I walked through Shibuya at night. The crossing was crowded. But still quiet though. Not a single car horn or shouting. Just people walking. From a distance I watched surges of people move. Compared to the crowds I had experienced in Times Square, this felt peaceful. Food became an everyday joy. 10-seat ramen shops and meals that cost less than $10. Plates of sushi passed by like presents on sushi trains. I sat alone a lot. Nobody cared and it felt normal to dine alone here. I went on a full-day tour of Tokyo one day which cost $120. It included Harajuku, the Imperial Palace grounds, and Meiji Shrine. Entrance was free to the Meiji Shrine. The sound of the city was muffled by tall trees, but it had the feel of a holy central park. Shinto beliefs were explained by the guide, of nature, of harmony and respect. Harajuku was noisy but it was bright and had a young feeling about it. It reminded me of areas of Berlin mixed with Bangkok's street markets. Here, fashion seemed fun rather than formal. I went to TeamLab Planets as well. It cost $38. Dark rooms were filled with digital art with water under your feet and walls featuring light. It was like entering a dream. I had seen modern art in New York and Paris, but it was nothing like this. I went to Nikko 150 kilometers to the north on a day trip to get away from the city. The train ride cost $35 each way. I paid $95 for a guided tour of Nikko. Hills covered in trees were dedicated to shrines. It cost $13 for admission to Toshogu Shrine, with its gold details and silence. It reminded me of the more preserved ancient temples I had seen in Cambodia. I wandered around for days back in Tokyo. To bookstores, miniature parks, and coffee houses. Slow travel had its rewards in the city. I was going to Kyoto by train. One way, the Shinkansen trip to Kyoto cost $135. To Kyoto was not much more than 2 hours away. Seats are wide on the smooth ride. I saw the city give way to hills and eventually farms. Although I had traveled by fast train in France and Spain, this felt unmatched. Compared to Tokyo, Kyoto felt more peaceful. I stayed close to Gion at roughly $100 a night. The streets were narrower and the buildings not so tall. I went everywhere on foot. The pace had slowed. The mornings were calm. I went on a half-day trip of eastern Kyoto with a guide, which cost $75, and took in the Kayamizadera temple. The city was visible from the wooden stage. Trees below waved in the wind. It evoked thoughts of Italian hill towns, but with a more genuine tranquility. Next was Fushimi Inari. The hill was crossed by thousands of red gates. I spent hours walking by myself. As the people dispersed, the route became peaceful. It was among the most memorable walks I've ever taken. Like some places of Peru, it's walking but it's sacred. I took the philosopher's path the following day. The canal was bordered by cherry trees. It was beautiful even without flowers. I watched the water's movement while seated on a bench. To get to Arashiyama, I took a taxi, which cost around $18. The bamboo grove was free. Above, tall green stalks swayed and light passed through. It seemed surreal. I had to pay $6 to enter the gardens of Tenryuji Temple nearby. They were carefully formed and calm. Just wonderful. I went on a culinary tour in Kyoto one evening. It cost $95 with tiny dishes and regional sweets. There were stories about family-run stores. In Rome and Hanoi, I had taken food tours, but this was more intimate and more peaceful. I went to Nara on a day trip which was only 45 kilometers away. Return train fare was $15. It was free to enter Nara Park. Entry to Todaiji Temple cost $6. The enormous Buddha sat still, watching. It was larger than Sri Lankan temples. I had an unplanned final day in Kyoto. I walked, I had a meal, I saw people meeting neighbors, sweeping doorways, and riding bikes. I was surprised by Japan. It was modern without being cold. Old without being restrained. Like places I'd seen, yet not like any of them. It seemed pleasant to travel alone here. Plain and straightforward. I thought I had just skimmed the surface when I left. Sometimes, though, that's enough to know you'll be returning. Some trips fade fast. This one didn't. Japan has a way of lingering with you. Not through sounds. Not through force. But only in short periods. A relaxing train ride. A bowl of soup. A leisurely walk beneath trees older than memory. Tokyo showed me that the future can be calm. Kyoto illustrated how the past could still breathe. Traveling solo allowed me to see things I would have missed otherwise. This trip reminded me that travel is more than just going to different places. It's all about pace. About how you go through the day. And how a place allows you to do that. If Japan is on your list, go. Walk more than you intended. Sit for longer than you think you should. Let the country meet you right where you are. Thank you for traveling with me today. I hope to see you on the road again soon.